They say some deals can never be undone, that once you shake hands with the darkness, it never lets go. And if you listen closely, if you let the music take you, really take you maybe, just maybe, you'll hear the echoes of a man who knew that better than anyone. A man who walked to the edge of the world, looked into the abyss, and whispered, "I'll do anything." This is the story of Robert Johnson, the blues legend, the lost soul, the man who played for something more than fame and paid the ultimate price. But tell me, if you were given the chance to be the best in the world, would you take the deal? Robert Johnson was just another struggling musician, lost in the dusty roads of Mississippi. His fingers knew the guitar, but they didn't dance across the strings like magic. His voice carried dreams, but it didn't shake souls. He wanted more. He needed more. But life was cruel to men like Robert. The bars he played in were filled with louder, better musicians. The women he loved walked away. The crowds barely looked up when he performed. He was nothing, and he knew it. And then, just like that, he disappeared. For 6 months, Robert Johnson vanished from the face of the earth. And when he came back, something was different. His hands, once clumsy, moved like they were possessed. His voice, once ordinary, now carried a sadness so deep, it made people shiver. His music, it was otherworldly, haunting, hypnotic. The people who had laughed at him before now sat in stunned silence. It was impossible, unless the whispers were true. Because Robert had told someone, a long time ago, that if the devil ever came for him, he'd go running into the night. And maybe that's exactly what he did. Maybe he walked down that lonely road, guitar in hand, heart full of desperation, and stood at the crossroads. And maybe, just before midnight, something stepped out from the darkness. They say Robert handed over his guitar. The tall figure in the shadows tuned it, played a song so perfect, it almost didn't sound human, and then gave it back. And in that moment, Robert Johnson was no longer just a man. He was a legend. The fame came quickly, too quickly. He could do things on a guitar no one had ever seen before. People gathered in crowds, eyes wide, whispering. They called him the king of the Delta blues. They begged him to play, over and over. But not everyone admired him. Some looked into his eyes and saw something else. Fear, regret, a shadow that seemed to follow him wherever he went. Because Robert had started speaking about strange things. About hellhounds on his trail. About voices in the wind. About something always watching, always waiting. And the music, oh, the music, grew darker. Me and the devil, walking side by side. I got to keep moving, the hellhounds on my trail. It was like he was trying to warn us, trying to tell us something no one was meant to hear. But we didn't listen. And then, one night, Robert Johnson fell to the ground. His body trembled. His hands curled into claws. His voice, once full of music, became a broken, desperate scream. They say he was poisoned. They say it was just bad luck. But those who were there, they saw something else. Something unseen, standing in the corner of the room. Waiting. Watching. Collecting. Robert Johnson died at just 27 years old. A man at the height of his power. A man who should have had decades ahead of him. But legends don't need decades. They only need one moment. One decision. One deal. And long after he was buried, his music remained. His songs carried on the wind, whispering his fate to those who dared to listen. And some say that if you ever find yourself alone at a crossroads, just before midnight, if you listen closely, you might hear the faint strumming of a guitar. You might feel the weight of unseen eyes watching from the darkness. And if you're not careful, you might hear a voice, smooth as silk, whispering, "Well now, what is it that you want?" Because some deals, they never die. They just wait for the next desperate soul to come walking down the road. What do you think? Was Robert Johnson just a man with extraordinary talent? Or did he really stand at the crossroads and make a choice that could never be undone? Tell us in the comments below. And if you ever find yourself at the edge of the unknown, remember this. Some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because the truth is always waiting. And sometimes it plays the blues.